First speaker is Jack Kantola. Finding himself on the threshold of old age, our next speaker, Jack Kantola, finds himself reflecting on his life from time to time. During his 7 decades on Earth, he has been a farmer, a logger, a TV repairman, worked on the space program, built motorhomes, boats, boots, nuts, and connectors. He has traveled to over 60 countries and would like to visit 25 more before he's done. We've presented many choices in life, but often we have difficulty finding the right direction in our lives. Jack admits that has been the case in his life and is something he continues to struggle with. Today, Jack is fulfilling assignment number 10 from the Competent Communication Manual, Inspire Your Audience. And Jack's speech is entitled, One Thing. Speaking for 6 to 8 minutes, help me welcome Jack Kantola.
How many of you remember the movie City Slickers? Oh, about everybody, that's great. And there was that one point in the movie where Jack Palance and Billy Crystal are riding their horses, and Jack Palance says, do you know the secret to life? To Billy Crystal. He says, it's this. And Billy Crystal says, your finger? What's that? He says, no, Jack Palance says, one thing. If you have one thing in your life, and only one thing, all the rest doesn't mean crap. Mr. Toastmaster, most welcome guest and fellow Toastmasters. That wisdom is very valid. To find that one thing in our life that gives us joy, that makes us want to get up in the morning and go after it, that fulfills us. I want to share a couple of stories with you. One is 2,000 years old. There was this fella by the name of Saul. He had purpose in his life. He had one thing he was after, and the one thing he was after was persecuting the Christians, and nothing was going to stand in his way. And one fine day, he's walking down the road to Damascus with all these thoughts in his head about how he's going to persecute the Christians, and he got recruited to the other side. You know, God sent his son out and says, get him on our team. Now, Jesus has methods of recruiting that are not available to us. What he did was he blinded him. Flash of lightning blinded him, got his attention. That didn't get my attention. Wouldn't it get your attention? Then he went into town, and there he went through the process of changing teams. And change teams he did. He had a saying it's in Philippians. He says, but this one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the heavenly call of God in Christ Jesus. One goal. One thing that inspired him. He did a pretty good job, I think we'd all have to say. There are over a dozen books in the New Testament that are attributed to him as the author. Not bad. He's the second most popular guy in the New Testament. He did a great job by focusing on one thing, and one thing only. Now you may be sitting there saying, yeah, okay, you give us a movie example, you give us an example from 2,000 years ago, but what about today? What's happening today? Well, I heard that passage from Philippians in church about a month or so ago, and Pastor was using it as a basis for his sermon. I was sitting next to my friend Christina, and she leaned over to me and she said, I have a one thing story. And so after the sermon was over, after the service was over, I said, Christina, tell me your story, tell me your story. She said, I was working in a company as a secretary, and not really liking it very much. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, and one day I was sharing my concerns with one of the managers. And the manager says, what's the one thing in your life that gives you joy? What's the one thing in your life that makes you want to get up in the morning and go after it? And she said, that's easy. I love kids. I love being around kids. I love working with kids. I love teaching kids. Kids are the most important thing in my life. And he said, well, have you ever considered becoming a teacher? No, not really. But then she thought about it. And on Saturday morning, she's cleaning out the bird cage at home. In the bottom of the bird cage is an old newspaper. And on that newspaper, right there, ready for her to read, was an ad that said, study one night a week to become a teacher. And she said, okay, I guess that's where my answer is. And she pursued that program and became a teacher. She not only became a teacher, she became one of the most energetic, wonderful kindergarten teachers you would ever meet. And today, she's also the youth director at our church. And she inspires those kids. She has so much fire and so much energy, it makes you tired just to watch her working. She's taking a group down to Mexico on a mission trip in June. And then in August, she's flying to Africa to work with kids in Africa. This woman has more energy than I will ever have. But it is because she chose and she found that one thing in her life. That one thing that inspires her, that gives her energy, that makes her want to get up in the morning and go to work. Now my question to you is, have you found that one thing in your life? Are you pursuing the most important thing in your life today? I know that I have wandered all over the place. And the one thing that I found is I love working in manufacturing companies. I enjoyed manufacturing. Most of you are probably sitting out saying, this guy's really weird. But that's what I enjoyed doing. And I enjoyed working with the people in the organization. And that gave me so much fulfillment that I never had a morning where I didn't want to get up and go to work. So my suggestion to you is to, if you haven't found that one thing, keep your mind open to it. Listen to the voices that are telling you where to go. And then once you've heard those voices, pursue it persistently, never giving up until you've achieved that dream. Mr. Toastmaster.